March 13th, 1899. Charity is nothing other than an outpouring of the divine being. All creation speaks of the love of God for man and teaches the way in which he must love him. This morning, beloved Jesus did not make himself seen in the usual way, all affability and sweetness, but severe. I felt my mind in a sea of confusion, and my soul so afflicted and annihilated, especially because of the chastisement seen in these past days. In seeing him in that appearance, I did not dare to tell him anything. We looked at each other, but in silence. Oh God, what pain! Then, in one instant, I also saw the confessor, and Jesus sent forth a ray of intellectual light, spoke these words: Charity. Charity is nothing other than an outpouring of the divine being, and this outpouring I have diffused over all creation in such a way that all creation speaks of the love I have for man, and all creation teaches the way in which he must love me, from the largest being to the most tiny little flower of the field. See, it says to man, with my sweet fragrance, and by always facing the sky, I try to send in homage to my Creator. You too, let all your actions be fragrant, holy, pure. Do not offend my Creator with the bad odor of your actions. Oh, please, oh man. The little flower repeats to us, don't be so senseless as to keep your eyes fixed on the earth, but raise them up to heaven. See, up there is your destiny, your fatherland. Up there is my Creator and yours, who awaits you. The water that flows continuously before our eyes also says to us, see, I have come out of darkness, and I must flow and run so much until I get to bury myself in the place from which I came out. You too, O man, run, but run into the bosom of God, from which you came out. Oh, please, I beg you, do not run along the wrong paths, the paths that lead to the precipice. Otherwise, woe to you. Even the wildest animals repeat to us, see, O man, how wild you must be for all that is not God. See, when we see that someone gets close to us, with our roars, we strike so much fear that no one dares to come close to us any more to disturb our solitude. You too, when the stench of earthly things, that is, your violent passions, are about to make you muddy and make you fall into the abyss of sins, with the roars of your prayers, and by withdrawing from the occasions in which you find yourself, you will be safe from any danger. And so with all other beings, such that it would take too long to tell them all, with one voice they resound among themselves and repeat to us, see, O man, our Creator has created us for the love of you, and we remain all at your service. And you, don't be so ungrateful. Love, we beg you. Love, we repeat to you, love our Creator. After this, my lovable Jesus told me, this is all I want. Love God and your neighbor for love of me. See how much I have loved man, and he is so ungrateful. How can you want me not to chastise them? At that very moment, I seemed to see a terrible hail and an earthquake that is to cause considerable damage, to the point of destroying plants and men. Then, with all the bitterness of my soul, I said to him, my always lovable Jesus, why so indignant? If man is ungrateful, it is not so much because of malice, but because of weakness. Oh, if they knew you a little bit, oh, how humble and palpitating they would be. Therefore, placate yourself. I recommend to you at least Corato and those who belong to me. As I was saying this, it seemed to me that even if something should happen, it would be nothing compared to what will happen in other towns. March 14th, 1899. The evil of man forces God to chastise him. This morning, my most sweet Jesus, carrying me together with him, made me see the multiplicity of the sins that are committed, and they were such and so many that it is impossible to describe them. I also saw a star in the air of enormous magnitude, and within its roundness it contained black fire and blood. It struck so much fear and fright in looking at it that it seemed that death would be a lesser evil than to live in times so sad. In other places one could see volcanoes which, opening more mouths, are to inundate also the neighboring country. One could also see sectarian people who will go on causing fires. While I was seeing this, my lovable but afflicted Jesus told me, "Did you see how much they offend me and what I keep prepared? I am withdrawing from man." And as he was saying this, we both withdrew into my bed, and I saw that because of this withdrawal of Jesus, men would give themselves over to more awful actions, more murders. In a word, I seemed to see people against people. Once we had withdrawn, Jesus seemed to place himself in my heart, and he began to cry and sob, saying, "Oh man, how much I have loved you! If you knew how I grieve in having to chastise you, but my justice forces me to this. Oh man, how I cry and grieve over your lot." Then he would burst into tears, and again he would repeat those words. Who can say the pity, the fear, the torment that arose in my soul, especially in seeing Jesus so afflicted and crying? I did as much as I could to hide my sorrow, and in order to console him, I said to him, "O Lord, may it never be that you chastise men. Holy Spouse, do not cry. Just as if you have done in other times, you will do now. You will pour it into me. You will make me suffer, and so your justice will not force you to chastise the people." Jesus would continue crying, and I would repeat, "But listen to me a little bit. Did you not put me in this bed so that I would be victim for others? Have I perhaps not been ready to suffer the other times so that creatures would be spared? Why do you not want to listen to me now?" But with all my poor speaking, Jesus would not calm himself from crying. So no longer able to hold it, I too broke the dike of my crying, saying to him, "Lord, if your intention is to chastise men, I too do not have the heart to see creatures suffer so much. Therefore, if you really want to send the scourges, and my sins no longer make me worthy to suffer in place of others, I want to come. I don't want to be on this earth any more." Then the confessor came, and since I was called to obedience, Jesus withdrew, and so it ended. The following morning, I kept seeing Jesus withdrawn in my heart, and I saw that people would come even inside my heart and walk all over him and trample him underfoot. I did as much as I could in order to free him, and Jesus, turning to me, told me, "Do you see where the ingratitude of men reaches? They themselves force me to chastise them, as I cannot do otherwise. And you, my dear one, after you have seen me suffer so much, may you hold crosses more dearly and pains as delights." March 18th, 1899. Charity is simple. This morning, my beloved Jesus continued, making himself seen from inside my heart, and in seeing him a little bit more cheered, I plucked up courage, and I began to pray that he would not send so many chastisements. And Jesus told me, "What moves you, O my daughter, to pray me not to chastise creatures?" Immediately I answered, "Because they are your images, and if creatures should suffer, you yourself would suffer." And Jesus, having a sigh, told me, "Charity is so dear to me that you cannot comprehend it. Charity is simple, just like my being which, though immense, is yet most simple, so much so that there is no place which it does not penetrate. So charity is. Being simple, it diffuses everywhere. It has regard for no one, whether a friend or an enemy, whether a citizen or a stranger. It loves everybody. March 19th, 1899. The devil can speak about virtue, but he cannot infuse it into the soul. This morning, while Jesus made himself seen, I was afraid it might not really be Jesus, but the devil wanting to deceive me. After I made the usual protest, Jesus told me, "Daughter, do not fear, for I am not the devil. And besides, if he speaks about virtue, it is a colored virtue, not true virtue. Nor does he have the virtue of infusing it in the soul, but only of speaking about it. And if sometimes he shows he wants to make the soul practice a little bit of good, she is not persevering, and in the very act in which the soul does that little bit of good, she is listless and agitated. I alone have the power to infuse myself in the heart, to make one practice virtues, and suffer with courage and tranquility, and with perseverance. And besides, when has the devil ever gone in search of virtues? His hunt is for vices. Therefore, do not fear and be tranquil." March 20th, 1899. The world has reduced itself to such a sad state because it has lost subordination to the leaders, God being the first. This morning, Jesus transported me outside of myself and showed me many people, all in discord. Oh, how much this grieved Jesus. In seeing him suffer very much, I prayed him to pour it into me. But since he still continues wanting to chastise the world, Jesus did not want to pour it into me. However, after I prayed him to make me content, he poured a little bit. Then, relieved a little bit, he told me, "The reason why the world has reduced itself to this sad state is that it has lost subordination to the leaders, and since the first leader is God, against whom they have rebelled, it happened as a consequence that they have lost any subjection to and dependence on the church, the laws, and all the others who are said to be the leaders. Ah, my daughter, what will happen to so many members infected by this bad example given by those very ones who are said to be leaders, that is, by superiors, by parents, and many others? Ah, they will reach such a point that neither parents, nor brothers, nor kings, nor princes will be recognized any more. These members will be like many vipers that will poison one another. Therefore, see how necessary chastisements are in these times, and for death to almost destroy this sort of people, so that the few who will be left may learn at the expense of others to be humble and obedient. So let me do not want to oppose my chastising the people."